before there were blockbuster heist movies or twisted whodunits on streaming platforms. There was Agatha Christie, the unrivaled queen of mystery, with a pen sharper than any knife and a mind that reveled in the art of deception. She gifted us Hercule Poirot, the little Belgian detective with a towering intellect. Today's mystery, The Adventure of the Western Star, is one of Poirot's most dazzling cases, blending stolen jewels, hidden identities, and a plot that sparkles as much as the diamond at its center. First published in 1923, it forms part of Poirot Investigates, a legendary collection that introduced the world to this eccentric genius and his impeccable methods. If you love classic mysteries brought to life through sound, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Your support keeps the spirit of Christie's brilliance alive for new generations. Now, step into a world of glittering glamour and shadowed motives, where fame hides secrets, and even the brightest star may lead to darkness. This is The Adventure of the Western Star. I was standing at Poirot's window, casually watching the street below, when something caught my eye. "That's queer," I murmured under my breath.
"What is mon ami?"
His voice came calmly from his armchair. "Use your detective skills, Poirot. Look, there's a well-dressed young woman in a stylish hat and fur coat, walking slowly, glancing up at each house. But here's the strange part. She's being followed. 3 men and a middle-aged woman are tracking her steps. And now an errand boy has joined them, pointing after her and gesturing wildly. What sort of drama is unfolding here? Is she a criminal being tailed by detectives? Or is she the target and they the villains? What's your verdict, oh great detective?"
"The great detective, mon ami, will do what is simplest. He shall rise and see for himself."
He joined me at the window, then chuckled softly.
"As always, your facts are laced with your incurable romanticism. That is Miss Mary Marvel, the famous film actress. Those people, merely admiring fans. And for your information, she's well aware of the attention."
I laughed, a little embarrassed. "So that explains it. But don't get too proud, Poirot. That was simply a matter of recognition."
"Indeed. And tell me, how many times have you seen Miss Marvel on screen?"
"A dozen times, I suppose."
"And I only once. Yet I recognized her."
"She looks so different in real life."
"Saker, did you expect her to stroll the streets of London in a cowboy hat, barefoot, with curls like a screen Irish colleen? You always miss the essence, my friend. Think back to the case of the dancer, Valerie St. Clair."
I shrugged, a bit annoyed.
"But don't worry, mon ami. Not everyone can be Hercule Poirot. I accept this.
You certainly think highly of yourself."
When one is unique, one knows it. And others agree. Even perhaps Miss Mary Marvel."
"What do you mean?"
"Simple. She's coming here."
"How can you tell?"
"This isn't a street of fashion, mon ami. No celebrity doctors, no top-tier dentists, no milliners. But it does have one fashionable detective. Me. People say, 'What? You lost your gold pencil case. Go to the little Belgian, he's marvelous.' Everyone goes. And so they arrive, in flocks, with the silliest problems."
At that moment, the doorbell rang. Poirot raised an eyebrow.
"And there's Miss Marvel now."
As always, Poirot was right. Moments later, the famous American actress entered the room. We both rose to greet her. Mary Marvel was petite and graceful, with fair hair and the wide, innocent blue eyes of a child. She had recently arrived in England with her husband, Gregory B. Rolfe, also a film actor. The couple had married a year ago in the United States, and this was their first visit to Britain. London had welcomed her with open arms. People were fascinated by her style, her furs, her jewelry, and especially one remarkable diamond known as the Western Star. Rumors swirled around the gem, which was said to be insured for a staggering £50,000. Poirot offered her a seat, and she immediately began speaking, her voice a blend of nervous energy and glamour. She explained that after hearing Lord Cronshaw rave about Poirot solving his nephew's mysterious death, she felt compelled to consult him herself. She admitted it might seem silly. Her husband, Gregory, thought so, but she was deeply unsettled. Then, she opened her handbag and handed Poirot 3 envelopes. He examined the cheap paper, the printed addresses, and then the contents inside. Each letter carried the same ominous message. The great diamond, which is the left eye of the god, must return whence it came. The second was identical, but the third was more direct. You have been warned. You have not obeyed. Now the diamond will be taken from you. At the full of the moon, the 2 diamonds which are the left and right eye of the god shall return. So it is written. She explained that the first note seemed like a joke, but the second made her uneasy, and by the third, fear had crept in. Most alarming of all, the letters weren't mailed. They had been delivered by hand, by a Chinaman. That detail shook her because 3 years ago, Gregory had purchased the diamond in San Francisco from a Chinese dealer who seemed terrified and in a hurry to get rid of it.
And you believe the stone in question is?
She confirmed it was the Western Star. Gregory had bought it for a fraction of its value and gifted it to her as a wedding present. Poirot pondered the story.
This tale sounds almost unbelievably romantic. Still, who knows? Hastings, bring me my almanac.
I handed it over, and he flipped through the pages.
When is the next full moon? Ah, Friday. Just 3 days away. Well, madam, you asked for advice. Here it is. This might be a hoax, or it might not. For safety, let me hold on to the diamond until after Friday. Then we shall act as necessary.
Her expression changed. There was a flicker of hesitation before she gently refused. Poirot's eyes narrowed.
You have it with you, don't you?
She paused, then reached in her dress and pulled out a long chain. From it dangled a breathtaking diamond, set in platinum. Poirot gasped.
Epitant, you allow me?
He took it gently, examined it closely, then handed it back with reverence.
A flawless gem, and you carry it around so casually.
She assured him that she normally kept it locked in her jewel case at the hotel, the Magnificent. She had only brought it today for him to see.
And you'll leave it with me, yes? Trust Papa Poirot?
Again, she hesitated and explained gently that it wasn't possible. They were heading to Yardley Chase on Friday to visit Lord and Lady Yardley. Her words stirred an old memory. There had been gossip a few years ago when Lord and Lady Yardley visited the States. It was said that his lordship had enjoyed himself a bit too much, with the help of a few lady companions. But more intriguing was a rumor linking Lady Yardley's name with a movie actor in California. Then it hit me, of course, Gregory B. Rolfe. Miss Marvel leaned forward, lowering her voice slightly as she revealed a little secret to Poirot. She and Gregory were working on a deal with Lord Yardley. There was a possibility of shooting a film at Yardley Chase, his ancestral estate.
At Yardley Chase? That's one of England's great showplaces.
She nodded, confirming it was the real old-fashioned feudal style. Lord Yardley wanted a steep price, and the deal wasn't finalized yet. Still, she and Gregory liked to mix business with pleasure.
But forgive me if I am slow, madam. Surely it's possible to visit Yardley Chase without bringing the diamond?
At that, her expression changed. A calculating look crept into her eyes, replacing the innocent charm. In that moment, she seemed much older as she firmly stated her intent. She wanted to wear the diamond there. I said suddenly, surely there are famous jewels in the Yardley collection too. A large diamond among them? She confirmed that with a short nod. Poirot muttered something in French.
Ah, c'est comme si, eh?
Then spoke aloud with that uncanny instinct of his.
Then no doubt either you or your husband already know Lady Yardley.
She confirmed that Gregory had met her during her time in the West 3 years ago. Then, almost abruptly, she asked if either of us read society gossip. We both admitted we did, a bit sheepishly. She explained that this week's issue had a curious article about famous jewels. I fetched the paper and handed it to her. She found the page and began reading the article aloud. It detailed the Star of the East, a diamond belonging to the Yardley family. An ancestor had brought it back from China, and a legend surrounded it. It had once been the right eye of a temple god. A twin diamond formed the left eye. The story foretold that one would go west, the other east, and one day they would reunite, returning triumphantly to the god. Coincidentally, a diamond fitting this description called the Western Star, now belonged to none other than Mary Marvel. The article concluded by suggesting that comparing the two stones would be most interesting.
Evident, a true romance of the first order. And you are not afraid, madam? No superstitions? You don't fear that if you bring these twin diamonds together, a mysterious Chinaman might suddenly appear and whisk them both away to their ancient temple?
His tone was light and teasing, but I sensed a trace of seriousness behind it. She brushed the idea aside, remarking that she didn't believe Lady Yardley's stone could possibly match hers, and that she intended to find out. Before Poirot could respond, the door burst open. A tall, striking man entered, Gregory Rolfe. From his dark curls to his polished shoes, he looked every inch the romantic leading man.
I said I'd come for you, Mary, and here I am. So, what's the verdict for Monsieur Poirot? Just a hoax, right? Same as I think.
Poirot looked up at the actor with amusement. The two of them made an amusing contrast.
Hoax or not, Mr. Rolfe, I've advised your wife not to take the diamond with her to Yardley Chase.
I'm with you on that. I already told her the same. But you know how women are. She probably can't stand the idea of another lady showing off a better jewel.
Mary snapped at him, calling it nonsense, though her cheeks flushed with irritation. Poirot only shrugged.
Madam, I've given my advice. There's nothing more I can do. Say Feeney.
He bowed them out. As he closed the door behind them, he turned to me with a sigh.
Ah, a woman's pride. The good husband, he spoke the truth, but he was tactless, definitely tactless.
I share my recollections about the earlier rumors, and Poirot nodded in agreement.
Exactly what I was thinking. Still, there's something odd here. If you'll excuse me, I'll take a quick walk. Wait for me, I won't be long.
Later that evening, as I was dozing comfortably in my chair, a soft knock stirred me awake. It was Mrs. Murchison at the door, looking slightly flustered. She informed me that another lady had come asking for Monsieur Poirot. Though Mrs. Murchison had told her he was out, the woman insisted on waiting, mentioning that she had come all the way from the countryside. I said to Mrs. Murchison, "Please show her in, Mrs. Murchison. Maybe I can help." Moments later, the door opened, and I felt a jolt of recognition. The woman who entered needed no introduction. Her face had graced too many society columns. It was Lady Yardley. I greeted her politely and offered her a seat, assuring her Poirot would return shortly. She thanked me and sat gracefully, a striking contrast to Mary Marvel, tall, dark-haired, proud-faced, yet with a hint of sadness in her expression. Wanting to prove myself, I leaned forward with sudden confidence and told her I believed I knew why she had come. She had received blackmail letters about the diamond. She looked stunned, all color draining from her cheeks. With a gasp, she asked how I could possibly know. I simply smiled and explained. If Miss Marvel, as the owner of one twin diamond, had received warnings, it stood to reason that Lady Yardley, owning the other, must have received them too. After a moment's hesitation, she gave a small smile and nodded, confirming that I was correct. When I asked whether her letters had also been delivered by a Chinaman, she clarified they had come by post. Then, with clear concern in her voice, she asked if Miss Marvel had gone through the same experience. I told Lady Yardley everything that had happened earlier that morning. She listened carefully, nodding as I spoke. She explained that her letters were identical to those Miss Marvel had received, though hers had arrived by post. But there was something strange about them. A scent clung to the paper, something like a joss stick. It instantly reminded her of the East. She looked puzzled, wondering aloud what it all meant. I admitted we had no answers yet, and asked if she still had the letters. Perhaps the postmarks could offer a clue. With a look of regret, she confessed that she had destroyed them. At the time, she had taken them for a silly prank. Now, the idea that a Chinese group might truly be trying to reclaim the diamonds struck her as nearly unbelievable. We went over all the facts again, trying to find some new angle, but nothing came to light. Eventually, Lady Yardley stood up, preparing to leave. She said there was no need to wait for Monsieur Poirot and asked if I could pass along her message. She offered her hand in thanks but paused, unsure of my name. I introduced myself. Captain Hastings. Recognition flashed in her eyes. She recalled that Mary Cavendish had recommended Poirot to her. After she left, I was quite pleased to recount the whole episode to Poirot when he returned. He listened intently, though he questioned me with more sharpness than usual. I got the distinct feeling he wasn't exactly happy about having missed the visit, and perhaps just a little jealous. Poirot often liked to downplay my skills, so he was likely a bit annoyed that I had handled the situation without giving him reason for critique. Secretly, I was proud of myself but tried to play it cool for fear of ruffling his ego. Despite his eccentricities, I was very fond of the little fellow.
Bien.
He said at length, with a curious look on his face.
The plot thickens. Hand me that peerage from the top shelf, if you please.
He flipped through the pages swiftly.
Ah, here we are. Yardley, 10th Viscount, served in the South African War, married 1907 to Honorable Maud Stopperton, 2 daughters born 1908, and 1910 clubs, residences, Nothing important here. But tomorrow morning, we see his lordship.
What? You're going to see Lord Yardley?
Yes, I've already telegraphed him.
But I thought you'd washed your hands of the case.
I'm not acting for Miss Marvel anymore. She refused my advice. What I do now is purely for my own interest. The personal satisfaction of Hercule Poirot. I cannot resist being involved.
And so, you just casually summon a Viscount to London for your convenience? He won't be thrilled.
Au contraire, mon ami. If I succeed in saving his precious family diamond, he should be most grateful.
Then you truly believe there's a strong chance the diamond will be stolen?
Almost a certainty. Everything points in that direction.
But how? Poirot stopped me mid-question with a wave of his hand, signaling me to hold off.
Not now. Let us keep the mind clear. And look at this peerage. How carelessly you've returned it. See Hastings, tallest books on the top shelf, next tallest below, and so forth. It is order method, as I have so often told you.
Exactly. I interrupted quickly and corrected the misplacement without argument. Lord Yardley arrived shortly after noon. He was a hearty, loud-voiced man with a round, ruddy face and a booming laugh that instantly filled the room. Though he didn't strike one as particularly sharp-minded, his cheerful nature and easy manners made him likable.
Extraordinary business, Monsieur Poirot. Can't make head or tail of it. My wife's been getting these odd letters, and now I hear Miss Marvel's getting them too? What the devil's going on?
Poirot handed him a folded copy of Society Gossip.
Before we proceed, my lord, would you confirm whether the information in this article is accurate?
Lord Yardley scanned the article quickly, and his expression shifted from confusion to indignation.
What a load of damn nonsense. There's never been any fancy story tied to that diamond. It came from India. Far as I know, not China. All this talk about temple gods and legends is pure rubbish.
Still, the gem is known as the Star of the East. Is it not?
Well, yes. But so what?
Poirot smiled faintly, but didn't argue the point.
My lord, I would ask you to place your full trust in me. If you do, I believe I can prevent a potential disaster.
You really think there's something behind these crackpot threats?
Will you follow my instructions without question?
Of course I will. But...
Good. Then let me ask a few questions. This plan to use Yardley Chase for a film, has it been formally agreed with Mr. Rolfe?
Oh, he mentioned it, did he? No, nothing's settled yet.
He paused, his face turning even redder.
I suppose I'd better be honest. I've made a bit of a mess of things financially, deep in debt, but I'm trying to clean up my act for the kid's sake. Gregory Rolfe has offered a lot of money, enough to set me right. I don't like the idea of turning the chase into a film set, but I might have no choice unless...
He trailed off, hesitant.
Ah, so you do have another option. Permit me to guess. You're thinking of selling the Star of the East?
That's right. It's been in the family a long time, but it's not entailed. Problem is, finding a buyer isn't easy. Hofberg, he's in Hatton Garden, is on the lookout, but time's running out.
One last question. Which plan does Lady Yardley support?
She's dead set against selling the jewel. You know how women are. She's all in favor of the movie plan.
Poirot nodded, thoughtful for a moment. Then he stood up with renewed energy.
You're returning to Yardley Chase today, yes? Good. Say nothing of this to anyone. Not a word. Expect us there shortly after 5 this evening.
All right, but I don't see why.
That's not important. You want me to save your diamond, yes?
Well, yes, but...
Then do exactly as I say.
The confused Viscount left the room, clearly baffled by Poirot's instructions, but willing to play along. It was 5:30 when we reached Yardley Chase. A dignified butler led us through the grand paneled hall where logs crackled warmly in the fireplace. In that soft golden light, we saw a charming scene. Lady Yardley seated with her 2 young children, their fair heads leaning close to hers. Lord Yardley stood nearby, smiling down at them.
Monsieur Poirot and Captain Hastings.
Lady Yardley looked up, startled. Lord Yardley hesitated for a moment, his eyes searching Poirot's face for direction. But Poirot stepped forward smoothly, perfectly composed.
My apologies for the intrusion. I'm still investigating Miss Marvel's situation. Since she will be here Friday, I wish to make sure everything is properly secured. Also, I had a small question for Lady Yardley. Do you happen to recall the postmarks on the letters you received?
Lady Yardley shook her head with mild regret. She hadn't taken the letters seriously enough to remember such details.
You'll stay the night, won't you?
Oh, my lord, we wouldn't wish to inconvenience you. Our bags are at the inn.
We'll have them sent for. No trouble at all.
And with that, we were their guests. Poirot, ever the charmer, soon had the children laughing and dragging me into their games. Lady Yardley smiled as she smoothed her hair while the nurse took them away.
Vous êtes bonne mère.
She replied with quiet emotion that she adored her children. Poirot, gallant as always, nodded approvingly. Just then, the dressing gong rang. As we rose to retire to our rooms, the butler entered with a telegram on a silver tray. Lord Yardley opened it with a murmur of apology and immediately stiffened.
Just a moment, Monsieur Poirot. You should see this.
He handed the telegram to his wife, then looked back at Poirot, barely containing his excitement.
It's from Hofburg. He may have found a buyer for the diamond. An American sailing tomorrow. They're sending someone tonight to examine the stone. If this works out, well, it could change everything.
Lady Yardley turned away, still holding the telegram. Her voice, low and sorrowful, carried across the room. She quietly told her husband that she wished he wouldn't sell the diamond. It had been in the family for generations. But when he gave no reply, her face hardened. With a resigned shrug, she said she'd go and dress, remarking bitterly that she might as well display the goods. She told Poirot with a small laugh that the necklace was hideous and that George had always promised to have it reset, but never had. She left the room. Half an hour later, Poirot, Lord Yardley, and I waited in the drawing room. The dinner hour had passed. Suddenly, Lady Yardley appeared at the door in a shimmering white gown. The necklace, fiery and resplendent, encircled her neck like a river of light. She posed for a moment, her hand lightly touching the jewels. With a teasing smile, she called herself the sacrifice and promised to turn on the lights so we could get a good look at the ugliest necklace in England. But as her hand reached for the switch, everything plunged into darkness. The door slammed shut. A woman's scream cut through the silence, long, high-pitched, and filled with terror.
My God, that was Maud's voice. What's happened?
We stumbled blindly, colliding with each other in the darkness, struggling to find the door. When we finally burst through, Lady Yardley lay unconscious on the marble floor. Her white dress was torn at the neck, a crimson mark where the necklace had been torn away. As we knelt beside her, uncertain whether she was alive or dead, her eyelids fluttered open. With a painful whisper, she said, "The Chinaman, the side door." As we reached it, I cried out. There, glittering in the dim light, lay the necklace, abandoned in haste. But as I picked it up, I saw the horror clearly. The center was empty. The Star of the East had been stolen. I breathed heavily, realizing what this meant. These weren't ordinary thieves. They only wanted that one particular stone. How did the fellow get in?
Through this door.
But it's always locked. I shook my head and demonstrated. The door wasn't locked anymore. As I opened it, Something fluttered to the floor, an unmistakable scrap of silk, embroidered in bright colors, clearly torn from a Chinaman's robe. In his haste, it must have caught on the door. Come on, he can't have gone far. But we searched in vain. The night was pitch dark, and the thief had made a clean escape. We returned, disheartened. Lord Yardley immediately sent a footman to fetch the police. Poirot, ever composed, tended to Lady Yardley with gentle care. He was as tender as any nurse. She had recovered enough to explain what had happened. She had been reaching for the light switch when someone sprang from behind, ripped the necklace from her throat with such force that she fell. Before hitting the ground, she caught a glimpse of the attacker escaping through the side door. The pigtail and embroidered robe left no doubt. It was a Chinaman. Just then, the butler entered quietly and spoke to Lord Yardley.
A gentleman from Mr. Hofburg's, M. Lord, says you're expecting him.
Good heavens. I suppose I must see him. Not here. Mullings, take him to the library.
I pulled Poirot aside. My dear fellow, don't you think we should get back to London?
You think so, Hastings? Why?
Well, forgive me for being blunt, but things haven't exactly gone according to plan. You told Lord Yardley to trust you, and yet the diamond vanished right under your nose.
True. It was not one of my most striking triumphs.
I almost smiled at how mildly he put it, but I kept at it. So, having, if you'll pardon the phrase, rather messed up, wouldn't it be better to leave now?
And the dinner? Surely. You don't mean to skip the excellent dinner the chef has prepared?
Oh, what's dinner got to do with it?
Mon Dieu. In this country, you treat gastronomy with criminal indifference.
There's another reason we should leave, and quickly.
What is it, my friend?
The other diamond, Miss Marvel's.
Eh bien. What of it?
Isn't it obvious? Now that they've got one, they'll go after the other.
Tiens.
He stepped back, visibly impressed.
Your brain marches to a marvel, mon ami. To think, I hadn't even considered that. But there is still time. The full moon isn't until Friday.
That full moon theory didn't reassure me one bit. Still, I insisted, and Poirot gave in. We left immediately, leaving a note of apology for Lord Yardley. My first thought was to go straight to the Magnificent and warn Miss Marvel. But Poirot refused, saying the morning would do just fine. I reluctantly agreed. The next morning, Poirot showed no desire to go out. I suspected he was hesitant because of his earlier failure. He pointed out, with solid logic, that the entire incident at Yardley Chase was already in the newspapers. The Rolfs would know everything we could tell them. I wasn't convinced. Then, around 2 o'clock, the phone rang. Poirot answered it, listened, and with a brief.
Bien, Jai Sarai.
He hung up and turned to me, looking half excited, half ashamed.
What do you think, mon ami? Miss Marvel's diamond. It's been stolen.
What? I jumped up. And what about your full of the moon theory now? Poirot looked down sheepishly. When did it happen?
This morning, I understand.
If only you'd listened to me. I told you they'd go for the other one.
It appears so, mon ami. Though appearances, as they say, can be deceptive.
We hurried into a taxi, heading straight for the Magnificent. I couldn't stop thinking it over. I said, that full moon story was clever. It made us fixate on Friday, and we dropped our guard. Too bad you didn't catch on.
My foi. One cannot think of everything.
I felt a bit sorry for him. Failure never sat well with Poirot. Cheer up. Better luck next time. At the Magnificent, we were led straight to the manager's office. Inside were Gregory Rolfe, 2 Scotland Yard men, and a pale-faced hotel clerk sitting opposite them. As we stepped into the office, Gregory Rolfe looked up and nodded at us.
We're getting to the bottom of it. But honestly, it's almost unbelievable. How that guy had the nerve, I can't imagine.
It didn't take long to understand what had happened. Rolfe had left the hotel at 11:15. At 11:30, someone who looked remarkably like him showed up and requested the jewel case from the hotel's safe deposit. He signed the receipt, casually saying he'd injured his hand getting out of the cab and that his signature might look a little off. The clerk had simply smiled and made a joke. The man even commented that he'd been receiving threatening letters from a Chinese man and joked about how his eyes gave him a bit of an oriental look.
I looked at him and realized what he meant. His eyes slanted up at the corners, like a Chinaman's. I had never noticed it before.
Darn it all, man, do you notice it now?
The clerk looked up at Rolf, clearly startled.
No, sir. I can't say I do.
And indeed, there was nothing even remotely Asian about Rolf's clear, brown eyes.
Bold move. He anticipated someone might notice the eyes, so he brought it up himself to disarm suspicion. He must have watched you leave the hotel and then slipped in right after.
What about the jewel case?
It was found in a corridor here in the hotel. Only one thing missing, the Western Star.
We looked at each other, stunned by the bizarre, almost theatrical nature of it all. Poirot suddenly sprang to his feet.
I have not been of much use, I fear. May I see Madam?
She's in shock, completely prostrated.
Then perhaps a few words with you alone, monsieur?
Certainly.
After just 5 minutes, Poirot re-emerged with a gleam in his eye.
Now, my friend, to a post office. I must send a telegram.
To whom?
To Lord Yardley.
He ignored my curiosity and slipped his arm through mine.
Come, mon ami. I know what you're thinking, that I've made a mess of this case, and perhaps you could have done better. All right, I admit it. Now let's put it behind us and have lunch.
It was around 4 p.m. when we entered Poirot's flat. A figure rose from a chair. It was Lord Yardley. He looked exhausted, nervous.
I got your wire and came up right away. Look, I went to Hofburg's. They know nothing about that man who came last night or any telegram. Do you think?
My apologies. I sent that telegram, and I hired the man who came to you.
You what? Why? What on earth?
My little idea was to bring things to a head.
Bring things to a head? Good God.
The trick worked.
He reached into his pocket and held up a glittering object.
My lord, I am pleased to return this.
It was the Star of the East.
But I don't understand.
No, it matters little. What's important is that I promised to protect the diamond, and I did. Let me keep the details to myself. Please, convey my deepest respects to Lady Yardley, and let her know how delighted I am to return her jewel.
Poirot smiled, chatting warmly as he escorted the utterly bewildered Lord Yardley to the door. When he returned, he rubbed his hands together contentedly. Poirot, am I losing my mind?
No, my friend. But as usual, your brain is fogged with confusion.
How did you get the diamond?
From Mr. Rolfe. The warning letters, the Chinaman, the newspaper gossip, they all came from Rolfe's clever little mind. The two diamonds, supposedly identical? Nonsense. There was only one diamond. Originally in the Yardley collection, it had been in Rolfe's possession for 3 years.
You mean he stole it himself?
Precisely. With just a dab of grease paint at the corners of his eyes, he became his own impersonator. A true artist, that man.
But why steal his own diamond?
For many reasons. Lady Yardley was growing uneasy. She was left alone in California. Her husband was elsewhere, entertaining himself. Mr. Rolfe, handsome and romantic, seduced her, and then he blackmailed her.
Poirot had confronted Lady Yardley, and she confessed everything. She claimed she had only been indiscreet, and Poirot believed her. But Rolfe had letters, dangerous letters. Under threat of divorce and losing her children, she complied with his every demand. She had no money. He swapped the real diamond for a fake one. The date of the Western Star's debut matched too closely. It all made sense. Lord Yardley was planning to change his ways and settle down, but the talk of selling the diamond terrified Lady Yardley. The fraud would be discovered. She begged Rolfe for help. Rolfe promised to take care of it and stage the robbery.
That way, he calms the lady, gets £50,000 from insurance, and still keeps the real stone. But I stepped in. The sudden visit from a diamond expert spooked her. She arranged the robbery herself and did it well, but I saw through it.
Poirot laid out the whole sequence. Lady Yardley turned off the light, slammed the door, tossed the necklace down the hallway, and screamed. But the real diamond? She'd already removed it upstairs with a pair of pliers. I protested, still confused. But we saw the necklace around her neck.
I beg your pardon, my friend. Her hand was covering the very part where the gap would have shown. As for planting that piece of silk in the door, child's play. And once Rolfe read about the theft, he staged his little act to perfection.
What did you say to him? Poirot grinned with relish.
I told him that Lady Yardley had confessed everything to her husband, that I was officially empowered to retrieve the diamond, and that if he didn't hand it over immediately, legal proceedings would follow. I also threw in a few harmless lies on the spot. He was like wax in my hands.
I thought the whole thing over, still uneasy. It feels a little unfair to Mary Marvel. She lost her diamond through no fault of her own.
Bah!
He waved the thought away.
She gained magnificent publicity. That's all she cares about, that one. Now the other lady, she is different. A good mother, truly feminine.
Yes, I replied with hesitation. I couldn't quite share Poirot's sweeping views on women. I suppose it was Rolfe who sent Lady Yardley the duplicate letters?
Not all, mon ami. She came on the advice of Mary Cavendish to consult me. But when she discovered Mary Marvel had already been here, and she knew her to be an enemy, she changed her mind. She seized the pretext you unknowingly handed her.
Wait, what? You mean I told her about the letters, not the other way around?
Exactly. A few questions were enough. She clung to the chance your words offered.
I don't believe it.
Ah, mon ami, you don't study psychology. She told you she destroyed the letters? Never does a woman destroy a letter unless she absolutely must. Even then, she hesitates.
I could feel the anger rising in me. It's all very well for you to explain it away now, but you made a complete fool of me from beginning to end. There's a limit, Poirot.
But you were having such fun, my friend. I hadn't the heart to shatter your illusions.
Well, now I'm done. You gone too far this time.
Mon Dieu, you get so worked up over nothing.
I've had enough. I stormed out, slamming the door behind me. Hercule Poirot had made an utter fool of me. He let me run around like an amateur while he quietly watched and smiled. Well, this time he'd gone too far, and I was going to make sure he knew it. And so, the mystery of the Western Star came to a close, not with sirens or gunshots, but with the calm, methodical brilliance of Hercule Poirot. In a world of deception and illusion, he reminded us once again, it is not the obvious that reveals the truth, but the overlooked, the subtle, the precise. Agatha Christie, the undisputed queen of crime, proves yet again that even glittering diamonds can carry secrets sharp enough to destroy lives. And Poirot, with his impeccable order and his famous little gray cells, restores balance not with strength, but with elegance, empathy, and intellect. If this tale made you think, kept you guessing, or simply swept you away, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Your words inspire us to keep these classic mysteries alive. And if you crave more stories filled with suspense, shadow, and cerebral delight, please like, subscribe, and share with fellow lovers of detective fiction. And for the full immersive experience, don't forget, listen with headphones. Until we meet again, stay observant, stay thoughtful, because sometimes a stolen gem is just the beginning. This is Echoes of Stories, where mysteries whisper long after the final clue is found.